Hi, I'm Bob Kovacs, and this is my 2008 Suzuki SX4. This has been a great little car, been very reliable for me. But one of the problems I've had with it is it occasionally gets hard to start. When that's happened, I found that the problem is the spark plugs are bad. I'll show you how to replace the spark plugs in this car because it's not necessarily an obvious thing to do. Let's take a look. To take the cover off the top of the engine, you'll need a short extension and a 10mm socket. To remove the spark plugs, you'll need a long extension, a 5/8 spark plug socket, and an 8mm socket. The spark plug socket will need a foam insert that will hold the spark plug in place. The 4 spark plugs are underneath this cover. Each spark plug has its own coil, so you'll need to take the coil off to get at it. But first, you need to get this cover off. The cover has a couple of bolts. It has a couple of press fittings at the back corners. Then there's the clamps that hold the air filter housing in. And the air filter housing has a couple of tabs that fit into slots at the base of this. All of that needs to come out. It takes a little bit of fussing to get it out, but it will come out. To get at these bolts, you'll need a 10mm socket and a short extension, and of course a ratchet. There are 2 pop-in fittings on the bottom of the cover at the rear. To make it easier to get the cover off, it helps to take this hose off, and it just slips right off at both ends. Real easy. Unfasten the air filter housing and pull it out to release it from the slots at the base of the cover. It might help to take the air filter itself out. With it removed from the slots at the bottom, and it takes a good firm pull to release the press fittings at the base of the cover. And try to disentangle it from the air filter housing. And there you go, it comes off. The spark plugs are beneath these 4 coils. We're going to take this one out first. This is where the 8mm socket is needed. And when you pull this up, there's a rubber boot underneath it that fits into the spark plug. So to get at the spark plug, you'll need your 5/8 spark plug socket and a long extension. And bring it out. You need that rubber fitting inside the spark plug socket so that it holds the spark plug in when you pull it out. And there's the spark plug. For replacement spark plugs, I got iridium spark plugs. They're supposed to be the longest lasting. Since the SX4 tends to go through spark plugs, I figured it makes sense to put the longest lasting plugs I could find. All the spark plugs that I looked at for the SX4 were all gapped correctly from the factory. I believe the gap is supposed to be 0.044 inches, and these are gapped that way already. Put the spark plug into the spark plug socket and press it into the spongy material so it's held in place. With the spark plug into the socket, slide it down in the well and finger tighten until it firms up. You want to finger tighten. You don't want to use your ratchet initially in case you have it cross-threaded. That would be a bad thing to do. So finger tighten it until you feel that it's nearly completely tight, like it is now. Then get your ratchet. I'm sure there's a torque specification for this, but I'm just going to use my ratchet, snug it up, and be careful not to over-tighten because you don't want to strip anything, and pull it out. With the spark plug in place, put in the coil, press it down on, and then you have to put its bolt back in and retighten it. And just tighten it down. Be careful not to over-tighten. And put in the 4th one. and tighten down the last coil. With this cover off the car, it's the perfect time to give a good cleaning. So use some Simple Green or whatever kind of cleaner you like to use, and then maybe finish it off with Armor All and make it look like new. Set the cover back in place, push it in to the press fittings, make sure you get the air filter assembly into the tabs, and of course if you took the air filter out, be sure you put it back in. Then refasten your air filter assembly. That one's tough to get at. This one's much easier. And put your 2 screws back in. Don't forget there's one more step. Got to press this rubber hose back in place. Real easy to do. That's it. It's done. And the last step, of course, is to test the car and make sure it still runs. And it does. Hey everybody, this is Bob Kovacs. Thanks for watching.